Hello students, now we'll start with new topic, that is ecological succession. What is meant by succession? Succession means the change brought by the organisms in one particular geographical area that causes changes in the communities, in the populations, in the places that organisms are living or the habitat. So succession means the changes brought by organisms in composition. So the shape of ecosystem changes. So then what is meant by ecological succession? It means since our living organisms are a part of ecosystem, the total change brought by the organisms in the ecosystem are termed as ecological succession. So we can also give some different definitions for this ecological succession as the steady and gradual change in a species of living organisms in an area with respect to environmental changes. In ecosystem, the ecological succession is considered as the important change of community. Is an important change in communities. When living organisms are initially evolved in one particular area, then we give a term for that as pioneer community. When living organisms are initially evolved in a particular area, that is called as pioneer community. In this pioneer community, we see different types of organisms. So after this, there will be evolution of different other communities. When all these different types of communities, including the pioneer community and later evolved community, are explained, then we use a term like SEER. Is a combination of all communities in ecological succession or in ecosystem. Now, individual communities are termed as seral communities. All combinedly are called as SEER. Individual communities in an SEER are termed as seral communities. Termed as seral community. The ecological succession in case of water is termed as hydrarch or hydroseer. The ecological succession in water is hydrarch succession or hydroseer. The ecological succession on rock is termed as xerarch or xerocere. Xerarch or xerocere. The ecological succession in soil is termed as lithocere. In case of hydrarch, simply we are calling it as hydrarch. We can also use the term like hydrocere or hydrarch succession or hydrarch succession. Here, water content is very more. In course of evolution, when living organisms are accumulated in the cereal communities and the shape of the seed is being changed, this will be converted into mesic succession. Mesic succession. So here, in this condition or in this type of change in the ecosystem, water content will be moderate. Moderate water content. But here, there will be plenty of water because it is full of water. Next, coming to xerarch succession or xerocere. Here, water is less, but when the climatic conditions like rainfall, etc. happens, initially there will be negligible content of water that we are telling as water is very less. But in course of evolution, due to the climatic changes and means exhibiting of different types of organisms in different cereal communities, it can also show at one particular season or time the mesic succession, means it is getting changed into the mesic succession. Hydrarch can be converted into mesic and xerarch also can be converted into mesic. Here we can take example as forest, because forest is the place where much biodiversity can be seen. Now we will see about different types of successions. So first one, hydrarch succession. Hydrarch succession, it starts at the water level or in the ponds or in the water area in some depressions of the earth. It includes 7 stages to complete hydrarch succession. It is started in the water accumulated areas like ponds, lakes, rivers, etc. So the first stage of 7 is phytoplankton stage. So these phytoplanktons are considered as the producers or the pioneers in case of hydrarch succession. So these are pioneer species. These pioneer species, they have accommodated in the empty area where only water is present. So when the water is mixed with mud in that area that is present there, or some of the soil particles that have come by the wind or etc., then this stage shows mud formation. What are organisms that are initially evolved here or which comes under this phytoplankton stage? We can give the names as diatoms, dinoflagellates, zooplanktons, etc. So phytoplanktons comes under pioneer species or the first evolved organisms in the empty, means water, in the depressions of the earth layers. So second stage is said as submerged species or submerged stage, we'll write. Here we see the existence of rooted plants. Examples are very important. So Vallisneria, this was asked previously in the previous MCQs. Hydrilla, Utricularia, and Potamogeton. By the time of reaching submerged stage of the hydraulic succession, here we see only one empty pond with water. But here the mud started accumulating. So these organisms, they have some roots which are fixed into the bottom part. So if you think this is the mud that is formed, then this will be floating in the water like this. So this will be water and the organisms or the plants will be floating like that. Third stage can be explained as submerged only, but some of the plants will be evolved that will be freely floating on the water. Submerge, free floating stage. So here if you see, this will be the mud and some organisms are having roots. Along with those, some plants like Pistia eichhornia will be floating on the topmost area of the water. So here we can take the examples like Pistia, Trappa, Azolla, Ceratophyllum, Cara, etc. So these organisms will be kept on floating on the topmost area also, along with the rooted plants which are formed in the submerged stage, first stage of submerged succession. Next, fourth stage can be said as a reed swamp stage. Here, the accumulation of mud will be more, the dead organisms will be accumulated here like this. So what happens? Water becomes little bit shallow here. Means that is occupied by the soil, mud, etc. And here we will see the depth of water is 1 to 3 meters only, not more than that. Here starts the accumulation of amphibian plants. Here we see silt plus humus. What are amphibian plants? If you see example, those can be Sagittaria and Polygonum. Next, under hydraulic succession, we will see other stage, that is fifth one, marsh meadow stage. Under marsh meadow, already most of the part is occupied by the mud, and here marshy atmospheric condition will be seen. Marshy soils. That kind of soil nature will be created here, and here we see some of the shrubs and also the sedges. We see sedges like shrubs, and also one more example, that is juncus. Sixth one is shrub stage. Under scrub stage. Under this, we see examples like cassia. So if this is the pond ecosystem, mostly this is occupied by the soil. Then here develops some of the terrestrial plants like cassia, etc., salix and populus. Seventh stage of hydraulic succession. Here we read existence of the forest, means completely the water level will be little bit, moisture condition of the soil will be existed, but this can be termed as climax community. We can also give a term like, this is nothing but the forest ecosystem. Here the trees completely depend on the rain, that is seasonally being fall on the forests. So here trees completely depend on rain. This is about the 7 different stages of hydraulic succession. Next we will start with xerarch succession. Xerarch succession starts on the land area, not in the water, because hydraulic succession we have seen that is having pioneer community from the initial water containing areas. But here it is not water, it is on land that land has to be the cold lava-like places where initially there is no existence of any of the organism. So example of the on the land can be cold or solidified lava. In case of xeroarch succession, we see the first pioneer community as lichens. In hydrarch succession, we have seen the pioneer community as phytoplanktons. Here, pioneer community are lichens. These lichens are of different types. First one is crustose lichens. Crustose lichens are firmly sticked to the solidified land or rock-like places. These are strongly adhered to substratum. We know that lichen is having algae and fungi. Fungi keeps on decomposing the dead organisms. Algae keeps on carrying on the photosynthesis to provide the food material. So, in case of pioneer community existing organisms, one common point is there for hydrarch succession and xeroarch succession, that there is no organic matter. There is no prior living any organisms. There is, in case of hydrarch succession, it will be only water. In case of xeroarch succession, it will be a completely dried rock-like place. So, these crustose lichens, they grow on rocks without water, but a little bit of content of moisture will be existed, that is taken from the atmosphere. So when these crustoses are next means changed into other type of lichens, because evolution keeps on existing in any type of ecosystem. Next will be foliose lichens. Now by the time of these foliose lichens, the crustose lichens have attained a leaf-like shape in their body structure so that they can carry on photosynthesis. Have leaf-like body. Third one is fruticose lichens. So one after the other will be evolved. All of the three will not be existed in the same time period. So this one, fruticose lichens, they are coral-like or bushy-like, but not the corals or the bushes. Bushy-like. How we see in case of plants, bushes we'll see, and in case of aquatic organisms, corals, they are living in, or many number of corals will be existed in one particular area. That type of nature is exhibited by the fruticose type of lichens. So we are giving a term like coral-like or bushy-like. Later, they are replaced by bryophytes. When these bryophytes are dead, they are replaced by pteridophytes. When these pteridophytes also die, or some of them will be still alive, these are replaced by gymnosperms and angiosperms. So when the gymnosperms and angiosperms are visible, then it will be nothing but formed into climax community, that is forest. Here we have to remember 2 points, that initial forming organisms are termed as pioneer community. The last or final formed organisms are termed as climax community.